Good day and welcome back to my channel. We are continuing our newest segment called Laura Reports. And today on Laura Reports, we're going to be talking about the wildfires going on in LA, the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively lawsuits, and Facebook has decided to end its censorship. Stay tuned. And we're back. I'm going to need to find some sponsorship stuff to fit in there. So, as I'm sure you've all seen, wildfires are spreading throughout LA like nothing I've ever seen. And I live in Canada, so I've always seen wildfires in LA in my mind, every year. But this year seems to be absolutely out of control. I always feel like Florida has hurricanes every year and LA has wildfires every year, which is surprised me that this year the wildfires seem to be extra awful and they seem to be extra ill prepared. So let's talk about it. So LA residents were ordered to evacuate Wednesday evening due to the widespread fires. I believe they started in the Pacific Palisades and they now surround most of the LA areas. These statistics are out of hand. 5 people have died from the fires. I saw a video on TikTok or YouTube or something of some guy inside his house with the dog, and all around, I'll see if I can find it.
That'll be okay. What happened to the car? What happened?
All around his house is just, they call it wildfire for a reason, because it is wildfire. I would get my dog and get the absolute hell out of there, but he seems to be just chilling. And it gives me so much anxiety. Tens of thousands of people have been evacuated. 125,000 people have lost power. The Santa Ana winds are at 100 miles per hour. 20,000 acres have been burned. I'm sure you've seen some of these pictures, but we're gonna put some of them here also. "5,000 structures have been destroyed, and it is rumored to be the worst and most destructive in Los Angeles County." Now, I don't know what you believe, but I believe in prayer. So I hope that you can send out a couple of prayers for the families that have been affected, the pets, the animals, everyone right now that's currently battling these blazes, the firefighters that are going on. It seems horrendous. So this is what I found out. So the powers that be seem to have no plan to contain it at all. The fallout is absolutely horrendous. We don't know how this happened. It could have been a cigarette. It could have been an arsonist. In fact, there's actually a lot of talk about there being current arsonists going on X, on YouTube, on TikTok. Andrew Huberman posted a video seeming to be someone who's setting a fire around the corner, and a lot of these wouldn't make sense unless they were started by arsonists, which I can't even imagine that one of the biggest wildfires in history is going on right now and you're starting smaller fires. The depths of depravity have surprised me more and more these days than ever before. The mayor of LA, Karen Bass, which, can we just take 1 minute for a second and laugh at how her name is Karen? Silly Karen, spelled traditionally with a K. She just got back from Ghana. So she had left and went for a political trip of some kind in Ghana to be there for something. Biden sent her, I believe. And she made her way back as fast as she could, she told us, to get here to essentially do nothing and comment on how the fires aren't her fault. So she was caught by a reporter, I believe it was from Sky News, which I think is in Australia, on the way, I think, coming from the airport back into LA. And he is peppering her with questions. What do you have to say about the fire? What are you gonna do about the fire? Is this because you took money out of fire departments? She took, I wrote it down, $17.6 million last year. She cut the fire budget. So let's just watch this video of a reporter trying to ask her questions about the fires.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Back up, boss. Appreciate it.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them?
That's just crazy. Like, how could you stand there and just not say a word? You're the mayor. I think even if you wanted to say, like, this is so upsetting, me and my team are working on the best to our ability, we're trying to find ways to combat this, I'll be answering more questions at a presser later, like something. She's just staring into space. Like, I don't know how we get people like this who cannot be in the public eye without making themselves look like an absolute idiot. I don't understand how they could have cut the fire budget in LA by $17.6 million when, like I said at the beginning, even as a Canadian, I know that fires happen in LA every single year. So why are we cutting the fire department budget by $17 million? That seems to a lowly YouTuber actress like me to be a very stupid thing to do when you know that fires happen every year. Like, I truly do not understand how those decisions get made. So also, Biden sent fire equipment to the Ukraine this year, which people are talking about. And yet I saw a video of firefighters with literal bags, like handbags, going and trying to get water out of the fire truck and like walking it over to a fire, and like women's handbags and like grocery bags. They're trying to move this because the fire hydrants are empty. Why are fire hydrants empty? So what I found out about these firefighters, so this is a perfect storm of mismanagement. There's no prep for these predictable fires that they get almost every year. And how did we get here? So the problem stems from the reservoirs that supply them. So the reservoirs have been being rerouted to the ocean to save a fish, a smelt fish. Not sure why, but this is what I'm being told. The water infrastructure is so old, like all of the actual reservoirs. So there was supposed to be a new reservoir built, this site reservoir in the Sacramento Valley, and that's been going on for how long? How long have they been trying to build this new reservoir? 6 months. Trying to get money. Money's tight. They cut $17 million. You know, maybe it's been a couple years that they've been trying to build this new reservoir. 40 years. It's been 40 years that they've been trying to build this new reservoir, and it still has not been built. $40 million have been gone with no sign of any new infrastructure, and billions of liters of water in the existing reservoir has been let go because they were so worried that the reservoir infrastructure was so old that it would fail. So they got rid of the already reserved water in the reservoir because they were worried that it would collapse and like ruin all the stuff all of around it. Absolutely ridiculous. So Mayor Karen Bass, she replaced this man who was in the old office, and she was immediately, her salary was doubled from what he had. And this year, while she took $17 million out of the fire budget, she also put $24 billion with a B into the homeless problem, into LA. And if you've been to LA recently, there's still a homeless problem. So what are they doing with that $24 billion? You tell me. This woman is too stupid to be in office. So she had a presser when she left that reporter. She went back, she met with a couple of people, and she's doing a press conference, and she's like reading off these sheets of paper. You know, she's just like I am, because I need sheets of paper. You know, I don't have this all off the top of my pretty head. Not yet, at least. I don't have a teleprompter yet, at least. But she's reading off this, and she's like, okay, if you need help, here's where you can go to get help. You can go see at the URL video. Anyone who's ever been on the internet knows you can't just Google URL and get to this place that she's talking about online where people can look for help for their firefighting needs. Like, how is the mayor of LA this stupid that she you replace, you say, sorry, obviously, team, hey, thanks. What's the website that they can get at that? Okay, perfect, thank you. Yeah, we'll get you that website. It'll be linked below. Whatever, like anything other than that. But to not know as you're reading this that you have to kind of essentially fill in the blank to where they need to go to get help online is mind-boggling. Next, we have Gavin Newsom, who's been a nuisance. There's a couple videos of him. He called into Fox recently with some like fake empathy. You know, it's people are so hurt, and you know, he immediately blames the mayor for not having water in the fire hydrant, and yet the night before a reporter asked him like, what's going on with the water in the fire hydrants, and he said, quote, the local folks are going to have to figure that out. You're the governor. Govern, please. That's not on anybody else. That's actually on you. And I actually didn't know Gavin Newsom as very well before all of this. And the cavalier attitude that he's projecting while people are literally burning to death about, well, the local folks are going to have to figure that out. Who? The firefighters? The firefighters are going to go, oh, there's no water in the hydrants. Maybe I should go. Where should I go? Where should I go get the water for the fire hydrants? That's not their job. That's Karen Bass's job and your job. Like, the buck stops here. The buck stops with you, buddy. Like, this Gavin Newsom needs to go. This Karen person needs to go. Like, there is no lack of accountability. Like, it's horrendous. Like, he isn't actually governing. Like, Anderson Cooper asked him about Trump because Trump has been blaming him for the fires. And Trump actually gave multiple warnings over the years about this exact situation. He was on Joe Rogan a couple of months ago before he was president-elect. And he spent like 7 minutes or something talking about how inevitably this is going to be a serious problem and nobody has it figured. And he's like, hello, like, we have this water situation, and so I called up this person, and this person kind of said, well, that's none of your business. Like, Trump sounded many alarms about this, but he didn't have to, because this happens almost every year with fires. And like, it's almost to the point of like, is something else going on? Like, is there some weird conspiracy with insurance companies who are like, yeah, we're going to burn all this down, and the city is going to get billions of dollars in insurance. Like, I don't know, because the level of stupidity that it took to get here, either they're the stupidest people ever, or like, it's a conspiracy theory. And I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, although in this day and age, we are slowly but surely getting there. Oh, and in the middle of all this, there's a video of Biden who's talking about, you know, the travesty of all of these fires. And he says, you know, my son, Hunter Biden, and his new wife, their house is probably destroyed. Do you think anybody cares about Hunter Biden and his house being destroyed? Like, why would you even mention that? And then he takes the time to, when all of these people are mourning the loss of like their home, their house, he's like, well, I'm a new grandparent today. Read the room, bro. Like, what are you talking about? It's such an obvious sign that he's turning more senile than ever. I did find out that Gavin Newsom has spent more money than any governor in California ever. I don't know how that happens, although Trudeau's done it in Canada. I think he spent triple the amount of money than any other, or I saw a graph somewhere, I'll see if I can find it for you, but it was like every dollar, every PM ever spent in all of history, and then Trudeau's. It's like he spent double anyone's spent ever, all of them combined or something like that. So how did we get here? Other than the water problem, there was a mass DEI hire within the firefighters in the last couple of years. So I've seen a couple of promotions that are going around the internet talking about why they needed women to be firefighters, and you know, they're hiring based on DEI. DEI, if you don't know what DEI stands for, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. Essentially, it's hiring people based on their race and sex rather than their merit, which, I mean, it seems to be going away, which is a good thing because I think it should be a meritocracy. Like, I don't want a surgeon cutting me open and doing surgery on me who was pushed forward because he's black or Asian or whatever. I want the best surgeon that I can get, you know. And I think the DEI hires for jobs like firefighters, like, I know that physically a lot of women cannot open the cap to the fire hydrant to put the fire nozzle in and hold it while the water is running through the hose. Like, a lot of women physically can't do that. I'm a strong woman. I work out, I'm physically strong. You can see it on my body, right? Like, and I have no qualms about being like, we need men to have certain jobs. And I think firefighting might be one of them, because there was a video online of this woman who is the deputy of the fire chiefs, and she's talking about, what happens when people say, well, you're a woman and, you know, you can't carry my husband out of a burning building. And she says, well, it's not my fault that your husband got there in the first place.
It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or, you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
That's horrible. I think a firefighter should be able to carry any person out of a burning building, and there should be physical tests. Like, it shouldn't be DEI, which is hired on the fact that you're a woman. It should be a meritocracy hired on the fact that you passed a fitness test. If you're a woman and you can pass this fitness test and you can lift someone over your head, like, there's army people, there are cops, there are people in the CIA and forces who can do that, but you should physically be able to carry somebody out of a building, to hold on to that hose and, like, put the fire out physically. That's so important. And I know that it's getting harder and harder to, just as like a white man, to get into firefighting. And recently it came out that they fired all non-vaxxed firefighters as well. So they must have lost a huge portion of their, like, league when they did that. Oh yeah, here's that quote. He got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire. What kind of attitude is that for a firefighter? It's like, you got yourself into this mess. Get yourself out of it. Crazy. So let's all pray for LA, because those videos and pictures are absolutely heartbreaking. Like, just whole communities absolutely wrecked. And I mean, I know there's a lot of wealth where the fires have happened, but that's not everybody. And that doesn't mean that they deserve their houses to be destroyed as well. So I'm really hoping that people will take a look at where their money is going with taxes and pressure the current governor and the current mayor to be putting money not into DEI hires or into the homelessness that obviously isn't working, these social programs, but be putting money into our infrastructure. And I say our, being Canadian, but putting money into the firefighting, putting money back into it where it's needed. Because, like, look what happened with the last hurricane in Florida. All the victims got something like, I believe it was $70 or $700. And I was talking to, I mean, I know I'm in Canada and they're in the United States, but I was talking to a immigrant here in Canada who just came, and they're getting subsidized to about $2,000 a month that they're being given here in housing and food and money for programs and lots of stuff. So why are we giving $2,000 to immigrants and then not giving money to people who just lost their homes from hurricanes or fires? You know, I really think there needs to be a reprioritization of what's important for the world and for human beings to thrive, because things have gotten really, really screwy. But with that, we're going to move on to something that's slightly more lighthearted. And I only say slightly because there's talks of domestic violence in this. So if that's a trigger for you, get off. My whole channel is going to be a trigger warning for you if that's your type of person. If that is the type of person you are. So you've been warned now. I had to get a new channel specifically for this, so that should say something. Alrighty, so talking about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, there are allegations of harassment, smear campaigns, legal battles. They're just rocking Hollywood as a behind-the-scenes scandal unfolds on the set of It Ends With Us. So let's break it down. So this all begins with a New York Times article that detailed explosive allegations involving Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Blake Lively is the star of Colleen Hoover's smash book, It Ends With Us, and Justin Baldoni is a producer and, I believe, director, and star, turns out, because he signed on, I believe, to be a producer and a director first, and then he went... I read the first half of the book, and then I really didn't like it, so I stopped reading it, but I remember it says when it's explaining Justin Baldoni's character, whose name's something like totally fantasy book named like Ryder or Wraith or Raiden or something like that. I can't remember. But I remember when it first explained him, it's like the most good looking man in the entire world. And then he decides to cast himself, which I just think like says something about him. I'll let you fill in the blanks there. So there's Lively filed a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, and she filed a federal lawsuit in New York claiming that Baldoni orchestrated a smear campaign against her with help from his publicist, a woman named Jennifer Abel, and a crisis manager, Melissa Nathan. So the lawsuit includes text messages allegedly showing damage to her reputation. So among the claims, Blake Lively accuses Baldoni of improvising unwanted kisses on set, and like they had sex scenes in the movie. I haven't seen the movie. And she insisted that there would be a intimacy coordinator after the fact because he like threw in a bunch of things that weren't there that made her uncomfortable. She also accuses him of pressuring her to lose weight just months after giving birth to her kid. She accuses him of entering her trailer uninvited while she was undressed and breastfeeding. And meanwhile, producer Jamie Heath is also named in Lively's lawsuit, which alleged that the two stars and the producer held a meeting earlier this year to address concerns about on-set misconduct. So a lot of that isn't being contested from Justin Baldoni's side. Like, there was a meeting and a contract was filled out where she went through it and said, I don't want you to do this, I don't want you to do this, I don't want you to do this. And both sides came to an agreement. This is weirdly one of those situations where I don't know who's right. Like, I have a feeling, I have an intuition, but I'm not sure if it's right. I think both sides have like essentially pros and cons, but I can't quite figure out who's right and who's wrong. Because Blake Lively, I think, probably has some good ammunition in her belt about some of those claims being true. I could see Justin Baldoni probably doing some of those things, but I wouldn't put it past her to exaggerate because she was totally smeared. Like, it's so funny that this world is like, you know, believe all women, and then as soon as something goes on about Blake Lively, like the whole world ganged up on her for being like a mean girl because 10 years ago, like she was kind of a bitch to this one reporter. Like they're bringing weird stuff out of the woodwork where it's like, see, that's being a bitch. Like, see, that's being a bitch. Like one example people are using is that in promotion for this movie, she like stares straight at the camera and she's like, grab your girlfriends and wear your florals and come to this movie. And people are like, oh my God, like this movie's about domestic violence. And that's so like tone deaf. But from what I've read, the people behind the movie, the promoters, don't want to be like, this movie is about domestic violence. come to this movie so serious. Like they were like kind of like keep it light during promotion, I believe is what I heard. And I mean, that's kind of a bitch thing to just like, with such huge smear campaign that was going on against her, which I believe is actually called astroturfing. Like there was such a huge, I saw it like back when this happened, like the whole internet was going for this woman for like misdemeanors, you know, like she's a mean girl. Like you can tell she's always been a mean girl. Like she was promoting her hair brand on carpet for this domestic violence movie. And, you know, it was all so harsh on her for really small petty crimes. Like people have bad days, people are bitches. Like I've been a bitch sometimes. Like I've probably said 10 things in this video that'll get me canceled, but the amount of steam that was behind the cancel Blake Lively was heavy for like not a lot that she had done wrong. And with Justin Baldoni on his side, from what I've seen of him, like I don't know him very well. I know he was on Jane the Virgin, and I haven't seen this movie. I watched a little bit of his like podcast. Like he seems kind of like a weak beta feminist. He had a proposal video for his wife that lasted I think 27 minutes on YouTube. I went to go watch it and I just skipped through it because who can watch 27 minutes of a proposal video? Like it seemed really self-congratulatory and narcissistic, but I mean, neither of those things, you can't win a lawsuit or say who's right and who's wrong based on how you feel about people, you know, like you just can't. So facts wise, like when Blake Lively's side came out, like she had text messages. Like these text messages are like Nathan, who is the crisis management manager, Melissa Nathan, she says that she can bury anyone. And Abel, who was Jennifer Abel, these are both women, was this publicist. She like showed Baldoni, and these are all legally obtained text messages. Like they weren't leaked. They were legally obtained by the courts, the law. And so this woman who's a publicist like showed Baldoni these examples of these tweet threads targeting, I believe it was Hailey Bieber, saying like, this is what we would need to slam Blake Lively. So it looks like from the evidence from that point, like it really looked like Blake Lively was in the right and that they were orchestrating this smear campaign against her. And because there was this contract that they had signed that like Baldoni signed, like she went and said, I don't want you guys in my dressing room when I'm not getting dressed. I don't want you guys talking about like it. Lively claimed that Baldoni and Heath spoke about her pornography addiction and sexual encounters and entered her trailer while she was getting undressed. But then when Baldoni like countersued, he claims that like the text messages that Lively said was like, I'm just pumping, I'm in my trailer if you want to work out lines. So that also is like, well, yep, I guess that is also fair too. It's been really hard to kind of see who's right and who's wrong. I think both of these people are narcissists. I think both of them have a huge ego on them. I think Blake Lively was the victim of a smear campaign for sure. Like that was next level, like women trolling, especially like I said before, when people are like so quick to judge women for being such feminists. Like they're like, that woman's a bitch, that woman's not a feminist, not that woman is it. Like the amount of hypocrisy that goes on in the internet when it comes to that kind of stuff is just next level. So Baldoni obviously disputes the authenticity and the interpretation of these texts, claiming that they're like incomplete or that they're taken out of context. So we just don't really know. It's going to be really interesting to watch this thing go down. And so Blake Lively alleged that Baldoni made questions about her weight. So he called her, and this is not contested, he called her personal trainer without her knowledge because he wanted to know how much Blake Lively weighed. and he wanted Blake Lively to lose weight within 2 weeks to film a scene in which he has to pick her up. And then Baldoni, in his New York Times lawsuit, which, sideline, why are you suing the New York Times? Like, those types of lawsuits are I literally think once that type of lawsuit has worked out for the person with the New York Times. And I think it was against the New York Times. Literally once, I think they lost in this type of suit. So Baldoni claims that he contacted the trainer to ask how much Lively weighed because he had to know for health reasons because of his back. So he had to know how much she weighed so that he could make sure that he could lift up that much so he didn't hurt his back, which kind of sounds like BS, but like, sure, I guess. So in November 2023, a lawyer representing Lively sent an email to the Wayfarer Studios containing a list of 17 provisions that Lively requested to be fulfilled. This is the contract that they talked about before she would resume filming. And so they reviewed and signed the contract, agreeing on those terms. So it's crazy to me because Lively is just a actress, right? And her final cut, she ended up editing it. So that is like a little bit of a red flag to me because they hire editors. And rumor has it that the original cut was so bad that Lively herself was like, talk to the studio, who I believe is Sony, and was like, this cut is so bad, like, let me do it and we'll put out that edit. And they did. So I don't know if that's Blake like being a bully and bullying them into like having her cut as like the star, because she does have a lot of manpower with like Ryan Reynolds behind her, Taylor Swift behind her. Like, she has 10 times more power than Justin Baldoni does. Like, nobody knows who Justin Baldoni is, but she has, you know, her best friend Taylor Swift, whose song is on the album, on the movie, and then her husband Ryan Reynolds, who also apparently bullied him with, if you saw the new Deadpool and Wolverine, amazing, watch it, so funny. There's a version of Deadpool in there called Nice Pool, and people are saying that it's him making fun of Justin Baldoni, and I think that is such a reach. Like, I think both of these sides have like a little bit of truth, and they're both just exaggerating it to like heights, because I think, you know, like, walking in on someone breastfeeding isn't sexual harassment. It could have just been a mistake, but she's suing him for sexual harassment, you know? And I do think there was a smear campaign. So a lot of what people are saying against Blake has to do with an interview that she did literally 10 years ago. She was 8 months pregnant. She was in a bunch of interviews in a day, like one of those media blitzes where you do interview after interview after interview. And there was this interviewer called Flay who uploaded this clip from her interview with Blake Lively that says, "The Blake Lively interview that made me want to quit." And so all it is she congratulates Blake Lively on her little bump, to which Lively responds, "Yeah, congratulations on your little bump too," which is kind of snarky for sure, and could it be a little bitchy for sure, but she's 8 months pregnant. She's probably hot and sweaty and been doing this all day, and she's also like the wife of Ryan Reynolds. Like, look at Ryan Reynolds' sense of humor. Like, the amount of shit he says in movies that's just like awful when taken out of context is crazy. And like, she's gonna marry someone like that. You kind of know what to expect. Like, if a man said something like that, like, they probably wouldn't even have batted an eyelash. And then so the interviewer like kind of shakes it off, and then she asks about like the clothes in the movie, and then Blake Lively's like, "Oh, everyone wants to talk about the clothes. Like, I wonder if, you know, like, the men get asked about the clothes." So they're using this like clip of her being like kind of a bitch, maybe, I don't even know, to this interviewer to like kind of smear her entire career and take away her image in this suit, which I just think is so ridiculous. Like, in a suit like this, you can't let stuff like that. Like, no one's gonna take his 27-minute proposal video and be like, "You're obviously a narcissist. We're gonna use this against your suit," right? So It Ends With Us author it's a woman named Colleen Hoover. posted a photo of Lively to her Instagram story in the midst of all this, calling her nothing but honest, kind, supportive, and patient since the day we met. And Paul Feig, who's a director who directed Blake Lively in A Simple Favor, which is great, you should watch it, and its upcoming sequel, praised her as one of the most professional, creative, collaborative, talented, and kind people that he's worked with in a post on X, stating that she did not deserve any of this smear campaign. And so it'll be really interesting to see what is going on with all of this at the end of the day. I have 2 other topics that I wanted to talk about today, but I've been yapping away for probably about 30 minutes here, and my guess is people can only take so much of me at a time. Don't worry, we'll get there. Soon you'll want hours of me, lots of video. Thank you so very much for joining. Please like, subscribe, comment, because as of right now, this is my first video on my brand new channel, Laura Christine. So take care, be well, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.